Hello everyone, Chip Boaz here, and a while back I released a video called 5 Reasons Why the Bass Player Should Always Play the Melody. One of those reasons was that you can use the melody as a launching point to create an epic solo. That's a deep topic. So we're going to dig in today with 5 ways you can use that to go from melody to solo. With each of these strategies, I'm going to be providing a specific example over a jazz standard, All of Me. If you'd like to download all of the examples in music notation and tab, just click the link in the description below. All right, let's get into it. If you take the melody and alter the rhythm, you're going to move closer to solo-like phrasing. If you listen to jazz musicians play melodies to songs, they'll often do this and they think of this as interpreting the melody. There's lots of stuff you can do. You can play some notes a little shorter and some notes a little longer. You can displace the rhythm so it starts a little earlier or a little later than the way it was originally written. The one thing you do need to be careful of is you need to make sure that melodic phrase that you're altering stays within the measure that it was originally written so that it lines up with the harmony of the song. You do all this and then mix it together with some other phrases and you've got something that sounds a lot like a solo. So I'm going to do that with the first 4 measures of All of Me. I'm going to play the original melody first so you can hear what I'm working from, and then I'm going to alter the rhythm and mix it into a solo phrase. Check it out. There are lots of different articulations that you can use to shape the melody into a solo-like phrase as well. But what's an articulation, you might ask? Let me tell you. An articulation is the way that you attack the note. We have lots of different ways that we can attack the note on the bass. You can play staccatos. That means cutting your note really short. You can play accents, which means really digging into the note and hitting it a little harder than all the other ones. You can play slurs. Now, this terminology comes from wind players when they slide between notes, but we can do the same thing on the bass with hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides. Once you start doing this, you'll see this makes a lot of sense in the way that you phrase your solo. You listen to wind players, a saxophone player, a trumpet player take a solo, and they're doing this all over the place. If we didn't do this, then our notes would just be monotonous, the same, and boring. Nobody likes a boring solo. So we're going to mix it up with some different articulations. I'm doing this with the second 4 bars of All of Me. I'm going to play the original melody the way it was written, and then I'm going to mix up some of the articulations and add some other phrases in it. Check it out. Any good solo should have shape to it, and that often comes from changes in volume. Wind players have the advantage here because they can change their volume throughout the course of a phrase using their airflow. We could use something like a volume pedal to change our volume during the course of a phrase. In all honesty, this isn't something that a lot of bass players have in their rig all the time. So we have to get used to pulling the strings a little harder to bring out some volume and then really backing off so the volume can be pretty soft. I've often found that digging in can be a little bit easier. It's the pulling back to soften up which can be the challenge, but it's so important. Loud doesn't have impact unless you have soft too. We can also imitate dynamics using faster lines. This doesn't actually get the volume increased at all, but what it will do is it thickens the texture so we get that same sort of feeling. I'm gonna do this with the third 4 bars of All of Me. I'll start by playing the original melody the way it was written, and then I'm going to mix it up with some dynamics and other solo ideas. Check it out. So I've been surrounding the melody with riffs as I've showed you all these different strategies because honestly, it's the most natural way to go from melody to solo phrase. It's like you're extending the melodic lines with other riffs informed by the chord scale relationships. This means you need to understand the harmony and how the chord scale relationships line up for each measure of the melody. You need to know what arpeggios and what scales inform the melody and inform the harmony so you're ready to be creative with them. That takes some study, but it's well worth it. You can also use chromatic leading tones to work your way into notes of the melody. When you do this, it's best if you can find a way to put those chromatic leading tones, which are either going to come a half step above or a half step below the note of the melody, on the offbeat, and then land the note of the melody on the beat. Notes from the melody are most likely chord tones or scalar tones, so they're gonna sit really well on the beat, and those chromatic leading tones are just going to reinforce the harmony. So I'm gonna take the fourth 4-bar phrase of All of Me and extend it with some riffs around the melody. I'll do the same thing. I'll play the original melody the way it was written, and then I'll play my interpretation by adding riffs. In every strategy that we've discussed so far, the melody has been a starting point for your improvisation, but it can also be a guidepost that you come back to during the course of your solo. For a lot of listeners, improvised solos can be exciting, especially when they're shaped well. But let's be honest, sometimes they get lost in the flurry of notes. But listeners love melodies, and coming back to the main theme during the course of your solo can be a great way to bring the listeners in and build a connection within your statement. This can also be beneficial if you feel like the band is getting lost behind you. You hear that they're lost, the minute you play a piece of the melody, that band is going to be right back in the form, right with you. I also find that it connects me to the song. Instead of just taking the mentality that I'm playing over a bunch of chord changes, then it feels like I'm playing the song. This just feels a little more complete and a little more musical to me. I'm doing this in the last part of the form on All of Me. So check it out. I'll play the melody the way it was written, and then I'll play the solo coming back to a piece that melody. You've got to practice these strategies. They don't just happen out of thin air. You've got to practice improvising around the melody. And you know what? I would take time in your practice session to break down each strategy and practice applying it. But here's the golden ticket. I would write solos using these strategies. Now, when you're talking about improvisation, this may seem counterintuitive, but think about it for a minute. Improvisation is just composition sped up so that it happens in the moment. When you slow it down, you're going to develop some of your best ideas. And then when you speed things back up and you're improvising in the moment, you've got some riffs to work from. You've got some ideas that you can throw in and evolve through the act of improvisation. So that's exactly what I did. All of the examples you heard are part of a written solo that I created using the melody to All of Me. Now, if you'd like to download that solo, both in musical notation and tabs, just click the link in the description below. But for the meantime, let's hear it. I'm going to play it for you. Check it out. Thanks for hanging out with me today, everyone. I hope these strategies help you on your improvisational journey. This is such a practical approach, and you hear it everywhere. I used a jazz standard, but you hear this happening in rock, pop, country, you name it. So it's worth putting some time into. I'd love to hear your approaches with these strategies. Let me know down in the comments. Or if you've got other ideas for using the melody towards an improvisation, put it down in the comments. And if you know recordings where you've heard this played out with musicians using the melody to create a solo, put that down in the comments. I would love to dig even deeper into this. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you hear about the future videos. Thank you, everyone. I will be seeing you soon.